Many years ago, there was a king. He was very kind. His son, Harry, and his cousin, Albert, were of the same age. But they were extremely different in nature. One morning, lost in his thoughts, Prince Harry was strolling in the garden of the palace. Suddenly, a swan, wounded by an arrow, fell in front of him. It was flapping its wings, writhing in pain. Harry rushed up to it and, holding it compassionately in his arms, took out the arrow. It was bleeding profusely. Harry cleaned its wound and, applying some ointment, bandaged it. Then he gave water to the swan. Now the swan seemed to be in great relief. Suddenly, his cousin Albert came there. Pointing his finger at the swan, he said,
"Harry, this swan is mine. It was wounded by my arrow. Give it to me immediately."
"No, not at all. This swan is mine. I have saved its life,"
said Harry. Both of them began to argue about owning the swan. Finally, Albert went to the royal court for the decision. Angry Albert said to the king,
"Your Majesty, I hunted a swan this morning with my arrow, but Harry has taken it. He is not ready to give the swan back to me."
The king was surprised. He knew that Harry was a gentle boy. The king summoned Harry to court. Harry entered the court and respectfully bowed to the king. He had held a swan in his arms. The swan looked quite comfortable in his arms. Seeing the swan in Harry's arms, Albert shouted,
"That's my swan! I shot it today in the morning."
"Is he right, Harry?"
asked the king.
"It's true that Albert shot the swan. But Your Majesty, I have saved its life. So, this swan is mine."
Now, the king asked his chief minister to solve the quarrel. The chief minister was a wise man. He said,
"Albert shot the swan, and Harry saved its life. If it had been killed, it would have belonged to Albert. Now, as the swan is alive, it should be left free to go to whomever it thinks to be its master."
Then the swan was left free between Harry and Albert. The swan ran towards Harry. Seeing this, the chief minister said,
"The swan did justice itself.